Good morning, Midge.
Good morning.
Hello, nice. Thank you for your time today. So is it just coming at 9 o'clock? Just gone 9 o'clock?
Yes, something like that. Yeah, yes. I'm in Connecticut, a place called Danbury, and I only got in the day before yesterday, and it's been interesting. You know, it's done nothing but thunder and lightning and batter down with rain since I got here.
All
So,
right.
so I'm choosing my moment to stick my head out my hotel room.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, thank you so much for joining me. This Meet the Business project, so I've chatted to 49 people so far. Lots of people, their experiences really during lockdown, people from Somerset, and so you putting a face to names to lots of different people. So yeah, I'm delighted you can join me today. So you're out there for the unzoomed face-to-face tour. That's right, just starting this evening.
Yeah, starting this evening at Daryl Hall's house. Not where he actually lives, but it's called Daryl's house. It's a venue that he used to do a lot of live performances from, broadcasts. So I've done it a few times before, and it's a very different type of touring out here. You know, I've always seen myself as a working musician, and sometimes that thrusts you into the limelight, and other times it thrusts you into absolute obscurity. Well, this is more the obscure end. So I'm out here on my own with my guitar, and I just travel around America. I vowed that I would do it every 18 months to 2 years, and this is the first time that I've gone out to do any kind of touring since we all heard about COVID, and that was a year ago in March when I heard about it in New Zealand. So yeah, interesting.
It's been a very strange old time, and so it's been interesting to hear everybody's stories and the things they've learned from it and the impact it's had in so many different industries. I actually saw you last month. I was at Let's Rock Exeter,
You were there.
yeah, which was one of some friends there. So yeah, brilliant performance. We all ran down to the front, and yeah, it was a great day.
See, I should recognise you then.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was facing the crowd of many. So, so going back to last year, then, when the kind of lockdown come in, and it was, I'm very interested to hear about the Backstage Lockdown Club and how that all started for you, and how it was for you, really.
Well, I mean, you have to take into consideration the fact that I've been doing live performance. I've been touring long before I was ever allowed anywhere near a microphone. Anywhere near a recording studio. Make a record, any of that stuff. So to have that element of your life just kind of taken away from you is a really bizarre thing to experience. So as I said, I was touring my last tour, full band, full production thing, in New Zealand when we started hearing about whatever this was, this virus. And the day we left New Zealand to fly into Australia to carry the tour on there, New Zealand shut its gates, so they closed down. That was a year ago in March. Now, how long ago did we actually try and attempt to do anything? So we managed to hobble round Australia, crowds getting smaller, even though it was all sold out, less people coming because they were scared. There's a lot of fear out there. Nobody knew what this was. We were starting to get little bits of sporadic information. And at the end of it, my main concern was getting everyone back home. You really couldn't be any further away from the UK if you tried. So when we managed to get back and realise, after a few weeks that this wasn't going away, this was around for a while, I started doing a bit of lateral thinking about, if I can't go out and perform, how can I do it? And a lot of artists had been doing stuff like this, just on the laptop, using the laptop microphone and the laptop camera, and they were doing it very well. And of course, me being me, I wanted to do it slightly better. I then delved into the technology involved in doing, high quality visuals and high quality audio. And I came about with the idea of setting up a little, kind of pay-per-view backstage lockdown club, which just means that people can access me, a couple of times a month, warts and all. They get to ask ridiculous questions. They get to see behind the facade because when you're sitting doing this stuff, there's nothing to hide behind. You are completely exposed. So that was the idea, and it's gone for just over a year now.
Yeah, I did notice the project. It was August last year, wasn't it, when it came up?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was funny how, because similar to you, really, when it came to lockdown, it was like everything kind of stopped. Always have a project I'm working on. I always have something. Hence starting this. And we actually, my dad and I that run a business together, we ended up interviewing a guy called Tim Moore, who played Live Aid, a keyboard and synthesizer for Nick Kershaw on the day. So that's why I was keen to talk to you, because we chatted to him about during lockdown about how it was back then. And I noticed your lockdown club come up and had a look at it. And it was something, like you say, something different and bigger that anybody else was doing in terms of, and the guests that you had on there as people. I'd be interested in how did it evolve from an initial kind of chatting to you, like you said, warts and all, until you had guests, didn't you, and backstage sessions?
Well, I think it's a fairly obvious step forward to, to bludgeon your mates into come along and helping you out, because everyone was in the same boat. It was such a leveler, having the whole lockdown thing. It didn't matter whether you were, U2 or whether you were just starting out. All of a sudden, all avenues were cut off for you. So you had to think in a kind of a fairly obtuse way about how you get out there to an audience and how you stay in touch with an audience. Social media is fine, it's okay, but it's just messages. It's not the real interaction. So yeah, the lockdown club idea came along, and very quickly, I suppose, maybe necessity drove this. I realised that sitting there talking to a camera or a series of cameras that I have, for an hour and a half, is a tall order. I remember the first time I was asked to go and do some motivational speaking. I had to go and speak to 500 delegates in Birmingham. And I was so petrified of doing my 45-minute talk in 5 minutes and having 40 minutes left to stand there looking like an idiot, that I asked the guy in charge if he let me sing a couple of songs, and he said no, which I thought was great. So I realised that for an hour and a half of sitting there gabbing away and whatever is fine, but it wears thin after a while. So I just got in touch with some friends, and we just did lots of interviews via Zoom, and then slotted in some bits of video or pieces of music that they were currently working on. And it's just a good way, and I've been doing the same for them as well. It's a good way of keeping in touch with your friends, keeping in touch with your audience, and tapping into someone else's audience as well, which is of the utmost importance, because not necessarily, Glenn Gregory from Heaven 17, his fans might not be particular fans of mine and have a very fixed idea, an image of what it is you do and what you sound like and how you write and whatever, because they've heard the singles. But then when they see something beyond that, there's a chance that they're going to come and check out, your, Zoom things, your blogs and vlogs, and maybe your concerts. So it was a reciprocal thing.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's one of the things that was to the club, the exclusivity of the behind, the intimacy as well, isn't it? Of that we were missing. And I guess in terms of the music industry, I noticed that a couple of the things that, things on Twitter you've put and comments, and just how the industry's just changed so much in terms of that connection. I was thinking this connection with the fans, obviously not being on stage and having all that, but things like, store signings are not a thing anymore, where you could, go in and get your record signed, or, and so having that where you've got that intimate approach to it, like say people can join in, they can ask you questions. When we're sort of more connected worldwide, sometimes it seems, harder to meet people, and how things have evolved over the years. And one of the things my dad said to me, like when the Beatles would release the latest album, there was that, it was an event, you would spend the week talking about it at school, you'd get the bus into town, you'd listen to it, you'd sit at home, and as great as it is as a fact of being able to hear all these different artists and stuff, I noticed there's a big issue obviously around paying the artists, and things like Spotify and other streaming services. I sort of wondered what your thoughts were on that, really, and how it's evolved in even the last 25 years.
Well, it's changed drastically. There's something about, I mean, going back to what you said initially about connection with an audience. Yeah, things changed when social media came out. Prior to people having access to a phone or Twitter or Facebook or any of those platforms, they felt you were unattainable. Which wasn't a contrived thing. It's just the way it was. So
Yeah.
they'd send you a fan letter or something, which usually went to the record label or the agent or the manager or whatever, and you never saw them. Now they can just contact you direct and say, are you playing Truro? When are you coming to back next time? And so you can actually just answer them directly, so they feel they know you. There's a much more personable connection there, which I could never do with anyone that I mean, the idea of me tweeting David Bowie would be ridiculous. It was, it's schoolboy fantasy stuff. But that's broken down barriers. But it's funny because it's not a replacement for what you just mentioned as well. The idea of indoor signings or the build up to a new release. Things are released now and you don't even know about it. People still come up and go, well, when was your last album? And you say, well, it was this, and they go, I didn't know anything about it. Because it's all just kind of slipped out, unless of course you're Adele, where there's been the jungle drums all around the world, announcing the release of Adele's new album, and that's kind of newsworthy. But yeah, it's a funny time for the industry. I mean, I get very verbal about this is a multi-billion-pound industry to the UK. The entertainment industry, not just the music, but entertainment that encapsulates wedding organisers and event organisers for industries or exhibitions and all of that stuff, because they all use rigging and PA and lighting and trucking and all of that infrastructure that's there. When people see artists bemoaning the fact that the government did nothing and has done nothing for the entertainment industry since this lockdown started, I'm not moaning about me. I can survive this, and most of the people, that you'd see who have a platform to spout these things off can survive this. It's the myriad of people underneath who hold us up in those lofty positions that we hold. As I said, the truckers, the lighters, the stage designers, the venues, the people who operate, the ticket holders, the ticket manufacturers. All of this massive infrastructure, all got left, to rot, and it's worth in the region of £100 billion or something. It's ludicrous what we generate. And between lockdown and our glorious Brexit, we seem to have not only tied our hands and ankles together, but put lead weights around our necks, and we've all jumped into a massive big swimming pool somewhere. And the government are sitting watching us floundering, and it's just ridiculous. And of course, the streaming issues as well. Streaming, it's a very handy thing. I use it myself, and I kick myself every time I do it. But it's so handy because the royalty it pays the writer or the artists or the musicians involved in making it, or the producers, is so ridiculously minuscule. I mean, I've seen umpteen tweets about people saying, I've just had a multi-platinum record in America, and I got my streaming royalty statement through, and I've got enough to go and buy a pint of milk and a pancake. And it's just obscene. So it has to be fixed. So I do get pretty verbal about that stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, something I've noticed, obviously evolved. And I mean, my favorite band's the Stereophonics. I've liked them since day one. And looking back to when I was 19 and pre-ordering their second album from a little independent music shop, and I had my choice of shops, but I chose that one because I got a free poster. And I went along, and it was the build up to the event. And now it's bizarre because they've got a new album coming out next March. I've pre-ordered it. And it will arrive, it'll be signed, and I've got my little shrine up of all my Stereophonics things. But I'm not going to play the CD, I'm not going to play the vinyl. They're things I'll keep. They're things I'll keep as tangible as the artistry. And that's what I always loved as someone creative and as a designer, is the whole concept of the album. When it's digital and you just hear the music, you miss the music video, you miss everything, the blood, sweat and tears that's gone into that, I think, to some regard. So I just stand there and look at the artwork and read it and who's done it. And I love flicking through old CDs. And I guess that's one of the things, is it's gone more accessible online, and say it's making sure that those people get the money that they earn for what they do. But it is a bizarre thing that it will arrive. I'll look at it and then I'll put it away.
Yeah, but there's something we missed out on, something when technology came along. I mean, technology is a wonderful thing. I use it all the time, of course. But when technology came along and started giving us, CDs, we lost something when we lost vinyl. Because in the vinyl days, you take it out, you look after it, you saved up your hard-earned cash to go and choose this very carefully, because you were investing a lot of effort, a lot of emotion, and a lot of money to buy this piece of plastic. And you take it out very carefully, hold it by the edges, put it on the turntable, and as you were playing the music, you'd read the sleeve. You would look at the photographs, you read all the credits and where it was recorded and whatever. And it all sounds a bit geeky and anal, but that's just what people did. You read the lyrics as you're listening to it, so the whole concept, you devour the entire thing. Think of classic album sleeves. Sergeant Pepper. Peter Blake. How can you imagine Sergeant Pepper without that sleeve now? Or the White Album, where it was just embossed the Beatles and nothing else on it. It was gloriously done. And to me, the packaging that that the music goes into is almost as important as the music itself,
Yeah.
because they should be hand in hand. There should be a team. It should be an entire thing, as you say, a sensory experience. You sit and look at the thing and you're touching the embossing on the sleeve, going, wow. Most people don't understand that to get that little bit of embossing probably costs 3 times as much as a normal sleeve. And we used to wrangle with the record labels all the time about doing it. And they eventually just said, great, it's coming out your royalties. And we'd say, fine, that's fine. Because we've got to live with it, for the rest of our lives. But yeah, we lost something as we went from vinyl to CD to MP3. Now it's just something in the air.
Yeah, I noticed the other day when I was listening to it, with Coldplay came up. Oh, Coldplay got a new album, and it was like, oh, okay, but it was without the fireworks and the build up to it that you would have got, and it just got me as something strange of like, there's a little bit of a discord between that. But then you mentioned Adele, where there's that behind it, where there's the opposite, where it's a big build up to it. So I guess we're kind of finding our way. And like what you've done with the Lockdown Club is that we've gained in terms of being able to talk direct to the artists, as you mentioned on Twitter. Someone can send you a message, you can reply, and and we never had that years ago. Yeah. Like you said, with the letters. But now there's an opportunity to connect where people can, you've done that with the Lockdown Club, and how people can, have that value again attached to something, but in a much more, intimate way, where they actually feel part of the experience. I think, which has been great to see.
Well, there's been that I was on a plane, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I went out to America doing similar to what I'm doing now. I was kind of challenged when I was doing something at the LIPA, which is the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, the Paul McCartney School, and I was doing a masterclass chat to the audience, and they were asking me lots of questions about, global touring and multi-platinum album sales and all, and I'm answering all the questions, and as I'm answering it, I'm thinking, irrespective of how good this audience is and how talented they are, there's very little chance of any of them doing any of that, because the industry has changed so much. It's changed beyond recognition. And I set out during this tour in America to travel America on my own. Didn't book the gigs, but I booked the transportation. I carried the guitar. I had the T-shirts made, and I went out there to see exactly and document the entire thing with a camera, and to show people exactly how difficult it is, even for an established artist, to go out and do it. And as I was traveling across America on a plane, I read an article about fairly well-known bands from the 80s and 90s in America who are struggling to keep their head above water because the fees haven't gone up, but everything else has. So they've now had to think about how they can generate income. So meet and greets, people charge money to come and you meet the artist, the band or whatever beforehand, and you get a laminate and you get a poster and you get your photograph and you all of that stuff. Some of them even go, you can buy a dinner with your favorite artist, and this is all This is all to compensate the cost of touring, which is just
Yeah.
obscene. It's just bizarre that there are brilliant talents out there who are struggling to stand up at the end of a night and stand for 2 hours longer than the show, signing CDs at a CD table, because there is no other income stream for them. And it's not a luxury. Music's not a luxury. Music's a necessity. It's something we all need to keep our sanity. The only reason I'm in music was because I was a huge fan of lots of other artists, and that inspires and that makes you want to go and do it yourself. So we kind of forget that. We think, oh yeah, music's just a bit of luxury. It's like having a cup of coffee. No, it's not. Music can touch your soul, and change the path of your life forever. When you think back to when you met your first partner, or when your best mate at school and whatever, every time those pieces of music come on the radio, that's where it takes you again, and those moments never go away. So it's an incredibly important thing. But to see it brought to its knees the way it is right now, the entertainment industry brought to its knees, is pretty sad.
Yeah, definitely is. But I'd say it's great now. Obviously, the positives now is that back out on tour again, and going to the gig in Exeter and being there was just fantastic. It was so much, realized how much you'd missed it, and just meeting so many different people, and enjoying the experience of the day as much as the music and the excitement of. We went down in a little minibus, and we're all like giggling away like school kids, that were going down. It was great. It really was good. And looking forward to going to lots more different gigs. I actually went to see the Stereophonics just before lockdown. I think it was end of March. It was like, do I go? Do I not go? And it was a bizarre gig because it was like we didn't know what was going on, what's going to happen, where's going to go from here. And it was all a sort of like a last sort of hurrah, and then it kind of stopped. We've gone through that process. I think we've learned lots from it all individually, and the people I've spoken to on this. What would you say is the main things you've learned from your lockdown experience?
Well, I'm still learning it. I mean, just from being here, I've only been here 2 days, and I'm already seeing a massive reticence for people to come out. And it's maybe a demographic thing, maybe it's an age group thing, where people want to experience it, just like you were talking about. You're in the crowd again, and you're sitting there, and you're loving. There's nothing like live music. The feel, the sound, the hitting your chest, watching someone doing something well is just it's a great thing. And there's a reticence. So I've seen a massive decline in ticket sales. Now, whether that is people who've had their fingers burned, because a lot of people bought tickets for tours, and I'm guilty of it as well. Tours that we had lined up for last year had to be cancelled and postponed and whatever, because the lockdown scenario, the lockdown mind map was constantly changing. So even though people could get the money back for the tickets, if they bought them through, ticket agencies, you didn't get that money back. So people are very reticent to go and buy it until they absolutely know it's going to happen. So I think what we're learning is the first 2 or 3 shows, until people see stuff on social media saying, I was at the show last night and it was great, they're not going to commit to doing it. Whereas, as you say, you know Stereophonics are coming next year, you buy your ticket now because you want the ticket somewhere near the front, you want the great seats, great sight lines, you want to know you've got it because that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
There's a reason the travel industry, directly after, Boxing Day, start advertising summer holidays, is because they want you to connect and commit to getting something, because it gives you something to look forward to through all those miserable January and February, spring months when it's raining and it's cold and it's slushy. You've got something in the horizon that you're looking forward to, and that seems to have gone. So I've learned that, and also that people are fairly resilient. You can learn new skills. It's all right saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I learned a lot of new tricks about how to do the lockdown club, where it looks as though it's got tracking cameras, and I've got screen imagery and whatever while I'm playing, and I've figured out all the technology for that. So there are alternatives to performing live. They're not better than, and they will never replace, but for now, it's a very good substitute.
Excellent. And that's another thing I noticed was the upskilling and people embracing and trying new things. And that's been a great thing to see. People that I've chatted to on here, they've never done video, and then now they've got a radio show, or they, you know, and that's been great to see people just growing confidence and their business expand. And that's what I kind of really love. I'm just looking forward now to the sort of end up. So the next year, obviously you've got the Voice and Visions tour, February, March, April, and I think you're in Bristol in September. So I might bring my dad along to that and wave at you again from the crowd.
Well, there's a Bath one in there as well. There's a Bath forum one in there in the first leg. So in February or March, I think it is.
Yeah, excellent. And how many dates of the tour for this one, Mitch?
You know what? I'm not quite sure because they keep adding bits. I saw another 3. Hull for Cornwall and Truro was announced last week. Something in Norwich was announced last week. So because, again, as you've got to understand, you know, because of all the cancelled tours prior to this, you know, over the last 18 months or whatever, all those artists have all got tours waiting to go. So trying to get access to the venues, it's like there's going to be hundreds of, you know, musicians all out in the street, all whacking the hell out of each other, fighting to get into the various venues to make the tour work. So so it's changed. It's something like 35 shows or something.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I'll leave it there. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and it's been a joy to talk to you and hear about your, you know, what you did during lockdown and your plans. And delighted to say the tour's back on, and I wish you all the best for this evening. So,
well, thank you very much indeed. I'll see if I've still got the skills.
Brilliant. Thank you, Midge. All the best.
Cheers.
Okay.